Hi everyone, my name's Anthony Cummins. Right, we're going to do some quick roundup of videos from the rest of the year because I've not had a chance to finish all the questions I've been given. So the next few videos are going to be up in quick succession. So for those who are my normal channel followers. Okay guys, right, we're going to go with arrow, ninja and samurai arrows. A lot of people sort of talk about arrows, but they don't really see it in the context of samurai and ninja and how it really goes. First of all, the bow that a samurai uses has status attached to it. There is a ridiculously difficult hierarchy of bows that people can or can't use. So if you were walking around Japan in old times, you would know people's social standing by the type of bow that they use. Depending on the ceremony, a different bow would be used. The arrows in the fletchings on the arrows in the quiver would be of a specific type, like a mountain eagle bird for this man, and that, you know, a kestrel for a knave and all that sort of stuff. So basically, just looking at people, you would see their position by the bow that they've got, or at least have some knowledge of their status. Now, this is easy to understand in a modern military context, which is like if you see someone with an officer's sword and they've got the braiding of an officer, they're an officer. You can see people with ceremonial weapons and ceremonial daggers. If you see someone in a kilt with their dirk, you get the idea of where they're from, what they're doing. So if you see a man in a kilt with a dirk, you see a man in a uniform with gold epaulets and a military sword on them. But if you see a more robust sword with no epaulets, you know it's someone lower, depending on which military you're in. There's basically, you've got to think of samurai like that. They're walking around with these bows. Now, but with all samurai weapons, there are ceremonial weapons and there are practical weapons. We know this from Book of Samurai, Arms, Armour and the Tactics of Warfare. Basically, there's swords for ceremony only that never see combat, and then there's brutal, it's been made to cut people up swords, and the same with bows and arrows. You get Yoshitsune's war boat is apparently weak because Yoshitsune couldn't pull it so far, and he was a bit embarrassed that everybody else can pull their, you know, it takes 3 men to bend these super bows, but Yoshitsune, he drops his boat and he goes back, chasing back, grabs his bow, and people are like, what are you doing that for? Just get a new bow. He's like, well, if they get it and realise I'm not so strong, then, you know, there's a problem. So bows in samurai culture are massively important, but also arrows. Now, each arrowhead has a different purpose. I'm not going to go through them here. I'd have to have them all translated. I've done it before, I've gone through the basic ones, but there are different purpose arrowheads like there are in the rest of the world. That's no problem. But I was asked if there was any poison. So I've never really come across poison at the minute on bows, but what I have come across is a stealth arrow, which was superb. It was a black arrow with the fletchings cut short. Now, I do archery, and if you cut the fletchings short, oh my god, it goes, you don't get as much accuracy because of course the flight's gone off a bit, but it goes boom, just fast as hell, and then it can start to spin out. And I've put really big feathers on an arrow, and it just which is just bizarre to watch it. It's like this, you know, the old cartoons where you throw the ball dead fast and it goes, it's a slow ball. For Americans with baseball, I have no idea, but you see it in the cartoons. And but the arrow's slow, so you get this idea of the Shinobi. There's also what's coming up in the next Natori book, the next Book of Samurai. If you don't know, follow my Book of Samurai series. Is an amazing thing where it teaches you about waterproof bows and waterproof strings, and that you dip into the water and then they're going through water at night, attacking people from the water. Oh, it's just mustard. This is Natori Ryu, so Book of Samurai series. But basically, bows have social hierarchy. You have a certain amount of arrows in your quiver. You're meant to lock one arrow into your quiver as the arrow of death. You take it to hell with you. So samurai always have one arrow left, or technically have one arrow, but this is, you can't get it out. It's probably either a dummy arrow or it's an arrow that's just been braced in, and there should be an arrow of death left in there, and you're firing them off. And but you also get standard arrows passed to you by the ashigaru or your servants. You know, there's another one, more arrows, like that. And there's arrow box carriers who are ashigaru or lower grooms, and you're shooting them, and then it's swords are out. Excuse me. But you also should write your name near the fletchings Anthony Cummins, so when it hits someone, they know who killed him. Like, yeah, that's from me, and you can identify. And don't forget all the fletchings. Some people have different identifying marks in the fletchings, and you can also, with arrows, tie messages to them. And in fact, if you're a samurai walking around, because samurai walk like this, if you're a samurai walking around and you see an arrow with a message, you don't touch it. You just get like the constable, if you like. You get the Metsuge, or the, you know, the observer, say, look, I've not touched it. Because if you turn up with an arrow that's got a message on, people are like, are you working for the other side? Doubt is on you already. So basically, arrows and bows and arrows in samurai and shinobi culture are quite cool. It's quite in depth. This is just a quick overview, but don't just think of it there's just a bows everywhere and everybody's the same. There's totally different bows, there's different arrows, there's spiritual arrows, there's arrows that you use to get rid of spirits and demons. You can twang the bow, but to get rid of, when you do kuji over the dead and then twang the bow, but you're not meant to twang it 3 times, even though they did sometimes in Japan. Because I've read different accounts. I've read that some, basically, witch doctors would twang the arrow bow 3 times over the dead, but samurai don't like to do that because it sounds like to sort of be struck, or it's a negative thing to use. So there you go, guys. That's basically a brief overview of samurai bows and arrows. Please get yourself a copy of Book of Samurai. It totally has got loads of this stuff in. It's a complicated book because it's a medieval manual and it's for the intellectual, but I assume you're here watching a video on history, you're quite intellectual, so get yourself a copy. All right, guys, see you later.